Boom. Hey, this is Julian.
Yeah, and this is Karyl,
Welcome to the late night rap. Karyl, what go on?
As you know, another night in paradise. It's good to be alive.
Cool, man. Give thanks for life. First, Karyl, just want to talk to the audience. Big up to everybody who reached out to us, gave us feedback about our first two videos. All right, some people said we need to be more assertive, right?
Some people say
we need to
need
work.
too assertive.
Yeah,
Some people say need too assertive. We hear you. People, we hear you. We appreciate your critique. We appreciate your insight. Keep them coming, because it only can make us better.
that's right.
You
That's
know?
right. You know,
No
And Karyl, here's
respect
some
and
feedback.
yes,
You know what's apparent to me is that many persons didn't know that Black History Month was actually created for Black Americans, right? By a journalist named Carter G. Woodson,
Woodson.
1926. And I want big up one of the commenters. I believe his name is Jamali.
Yeah,
Who
man. The
actually
artist
broke it
Jamali.
down. Yeah, man. He
Yeah,
actually
man.
broke it down,
Yeah,
right?
man. Yeah, man. I'm a brethren. No, a big shout out to Jamali too,
Cooler,
Yeah.
man. And Karyl, me say somebody take you on in about you. I believe a Black American, foundation of Black American, took you on in the comment section. What you have to say about that?
Well, me like it because at least I generate discussion. I'm not one to shy away from intellectual discourse, and
Yeah.
it's good to know that it reached to that audience as well. A man voicing opinion like me have mine. No offense taken. I just want to say, whatever I say and however I say it, it's not in a combative, it's not in a combative mode or a combative way. That's how I feel, and that's how I stay. Nobody know me, I just talk how I feel. Virgin, if it offend you, it's good to know you can stand up and say, I have been offended by the way you say it, or what you say, and we can argue it out, we can flesh it out. We can't be adult about it. No offense taken, none meant.
That's right. I think we should go into this week's discussion, well, this night's discussion. But before we go ahead, I just want to say, all opinions expressed by me here, it's my opinion and my opinion only, and should not be associated with anybody I may be affiliated with in my 9 to 5. All right?
Yeah, any entity that we might currently represent.
That is right.
Yeah, that's right. Opinion. This is Karyl attack.
That's right.
And
That's right. All right, let's go into it. Right? This week, the geopolitical situation in the Caribbean continued. Jamaica was actually center of it when the Prime Minister at the 50th Caribbean Heads of Government meeting, he expressed solidarity with Cuba amid their near humanitarian crisis. It was not taken well by a certain U.S. congressman. The congressman's name is Giménez.
Giménez. Yeah, Giménez.
Holness in his speech expressed solidarity, and then he posted on X. He shared in his caption, "Today, many Cubans are facing serious economic hardship, energy shortages, and growing humanitarian challenges. We are sensitive to their struggles, but we must also recognize that a prolonged crisis in Cuba will not remain there. It can impact migration, security, and economic stability across the Caribbean, including Jamaica." And in his response, Mr. Giménez said, "I harshly condemn this and find it lamentable that the JLP would cover up for the moribund dictatorship in Cuba when the Castro regime repeatedly intervened in Jamaica's politics to exacerbate partisan tensions and undermine the JLP." And Mr. Giménez Karyl concluded his statement by saying, "Jamaica will face consequences." Boy, Mr. Giménez went hard. What's your take?
Well, I think we have to take this whole thing into context,
Mm-hmm.
right? History, the context of it, before we really got to where Mr. Giménez reached. Because first of all, we reached back to a point here now in the 70s where former Prime Minister Michael Manley, right, struck up a friendship with Fidel Castro. And that didn't go down well with the United States. Mr. Manley's line at the time was that your enemy is not necessarily my enemy. And I don't think you're in a position to tell me who my friend should be. I think we're man enough to choose who a friend is. In other words, and now we see the thing come full circle where the Prime Minister Holness, in my view, was quite balanced in terms of the humanitarian crisis, the milk of human kindness that he displayed in emphasizing with the Cuban people what they are going through at this point. But he also said Cuba needs to open up certain things. He never only said he was going to help Cuba. He did make sure, point out that there are ideological differences between his regime and the Cuban regime. He did state that, didn't he?
He did.
Right? So it's not that he just jump up out there now and defend Cuba carte blanche. No. He said, boy, things are going on in Cuba, it really touched my soul. We have to understand Cuba is the closest neighbor, innit?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that can't change.
That's right. That's right.
Cuba has been, no, whatever happened to Cuba over the years under the Castro regime, where them say dictatorship, communism, Cuba has been good to Jamaica on certain levels. Jamaicans have gone to Cuba for free eye care. Jamaicans have studied in Cuba and qualified themselves. On a world level,
Yes.
Cuba has exported, I think, the most doctors ever exported by any country. Not to say that everything them do is hunky-dory and nice and good. Because we know that we hear the stories and the horror stories about the political prisoners and all of that. But we also must remember what obtained in Cuba under the Batista regime before the revolution that was led by El Comandante Castro.
That's right.
Which now it is a time in the 70s to what Mr. Giménez referred to, was about the Cold War era, where it was either capitalism or communism. America and Russia had the world split down that political line. So there was an ideological difference. And because Cuba is in the Caribbean basin, right in America backyard around the sun, their geographical position made their position a little bit tenuous when they were dealing with Russia, who was 3/4 way away around the world. America had legitimate security concerns about them dealing so in bed with Russia. Now we come way past that. We come way past that. In a 2026 now, we've gone back to a place where we can't express solidarity with the suffering of the people in an island that's, 90 miles off our coast?
Exactly.
And somebody not vexed about that and threaten we with all kind of consequences. And that word that him use, especially in the climate of what's going on right now, when him say we're going to face consequences, make me have to wonder if we have to start think about what them are gonna drop on we. If 100 school children are gonna die or something like that. I'm not, we can't fight, clearly.
Yeah.
America better than we. As bad as we want to feel like we want to be as Jamaica, we not bad like them, man. Them man, they going bigger than our one. We have to quat. Them have more money, more everything. So when you say we're going to face the consequences, it's very concerning. Simply because we expressed sympathy or empathy with what's happening to the children, the poor people, who the majority of the Cuban population does not constitute the government.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of concerning where that is concerned.
I support the Prime Minister 100%. I believe it was Malcolm X who said, if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. Right? That's where you go?
If it's not Malcolm, it's MLK. But
right? Yes.
One of them icon there. One of them icon, they say that.
Yeah, man.
Don't quote me.
You will fall for anything. Right? I'm glad that we showed some fortitude. Jamaica, decades ago, we are a regional leader in terms of standing up for what we feel is right.
Well, right and justice, yeah.
Right. The Prime Minister didn't do anything wrong. He didn't endorse the communism regime, right, or dictatorship, right? He expressed solidarity with the people of Cuba. Yeah, and what they're going through in terms of the near humanitarian crisis, right? I don't think anything wrong with that. And also, Karyl, if your neighbor house a bundle, what you get?
You throw some water upon it, brother.
That is right. Exactly.
You get some bucket empty afterwards. Don't care the quarrel where we did have yesterday. Because that fire can spread to my house.
That's right. Exactly. So, as the Prime Minister rightfully indicated, with what Cuba is going through, that could have implication for migration, could have a health crisis. Remember, Cuba is a leader in terms of medicine in this region. And it could have, obviously, inevitably a security crisis. I believe it's important that Jamaica play its role in alleviating that crisis in Cuba.
It's very important to us because our another close neighbor, Haiti, look what's going on over there, right? Look what's going on over there. So the Caribbean
Mm-hmm.
as a bloc
Yes.
has to know when it has to unite in its interest,
Yeah, man. That's right. Exactly.
right? And what caused Cuba? We were asked, I'm sorry, I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
ask this question here straight up. What
Yeah.
caused that crisis in Cuba at this point? This present one we are going on. What
Exactly.
caused
But
that?
that was my next point, Karyl. My next point was that. But Karyl. My next point was that, right? America claims to be a global leader in humanitarianism, right? But because of their blockade, right, which I must say has been eased a little this week, right? Let me just say that.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah, yeah.
because of their blockade that caused this problem. Right now, what you have ambulances not able to
Without
obtain fuel,
fuel,
you have trouble, right?
and the people them have 3 hours worth of light every day,
Exactly.
right?
Hospitals
So
are
how that
crippled.
affect hospital? How that affect education? How that
That's
affect
right.
food storage?
Exactly. And another thing too is that prices there have skyrocketed,
And
right?
them already broke as a nation already.
Yeah,
Them
man.
already not have the money because remember the
Mhm.
Helmsburg
Yes.
before me and you born. That
That's right.
law has been there. These are two senators or two U.S. politicians, Jesse Helms and
Mhm.
someone another Burton. Can't remember him first name. Came together and put this economic blockade thing against Cuba.
Yes, that's
It
right.
was only eased slightly during the Obama presidency. And as soon as that gone, done it tighten back again. Now, all of this, is just through a difference in ideology, a difference in political ideology. It not so
Yeah.
see in my layman's view, from
Yes.
where I sit here. It's not so serious that pick me have to go starve and them can't get no so basic food, shelter, clothing
Mhm.
where every human being deserves in this world.
That's
I
right.
don't think it's so serious. Why is it so crucial to make your political point at the suffering, constant suffering of a whole nation of people?
Yes, 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 yes.
Because like religion or lack thereof, every human being have a right to a political view and a religious view. That is a human right.
But Carol, I must tell you that Mr. Giménez followed up his post by saying Caribbean countries should follow the lead of Prime Minister Kamala of Trinidad and Tobago, right? Who has governed with moral clarity, strengthened her nation's alliance with the US, and championed democracy in the region. And he said that, and Trinidad and Tobago is benefiting tremendously, and other nations can be as well. So he's telling us, Carol, he's telling the Prime Minister to follow the lead.
Shut up and dribble.
Shut up and dribble. That is it. That is it.
Simply put, shut up and dribble. Well, you see that Kamala argument there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be very guarded
Yeah.
in how I deal with it. But let's put it this way. Me prefer me.
All right. Don't say no more, Carol. Carol, we not have much time. Right?
Yeah. But
What
we'll go
happened
back
to
to
this?
Cuba still.
Huh?
We'll go back to Cuba still.
We're gonna go
Right?
back. Mm-hmm.
We don't want to leave Cuba yet still. Right? Because people must know that Nelson Mandela
Mm-hmm.
is on record as saying, look, him have to be friend with the Cuban them because when apartheid did a go on, America never support the freedom movement, the anti-apartheid movement. Britain never supported. Cuba did.
That's right.
Remember, Cuba send them forces go to Angola
Mm-hmm.
when them are fighting for them independence from colonialists. MPLA fight there. Them send them go to Kenya too and Zimbabwe. Cuba has been very instrumental in helping poor countries. See, one of the greatest revolutionary did a spar with Fidel, a man named Che.
That's right.
So we have to know the history of this thing, because down there so was a gambler's paradise and it did controlled by the mafia. And the population of Cubans were suffering. Some of the greatest boxers this world has ever seen have been produced by Cuba. Them have the least in terms of cases of infant mortality down there.
Yes.
The rate of cancer is very, rumor has it that them have a cure for cancer down there. And
Yeah, man.
also HIV. They have made serious advances in the medical field. No beach, no there Jamaica like where they are Cuba, and if Cuba ever free up, tourism at Jamaica get a beat, now second we come, and third, right? So Cuba they have had the heel on their neck for decades, almost going a century now. It's almost becoming almost a century. where they have been under economic duress. And just where they are, Cuba get Wi-Fi, you know, couple years ago, you know.
Yeah,
And if
man.
you look at the cars down in Cuba now, classic car, them still are driving, you know.
Yeah, man. That's as a result of the
The
60-year
embargo.
embargo on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So,
Karyl, we're out of time, right? But we're gonna wrap it up. Obviously, this is a discussion that, you know, it's probably cliche right now. You know,
yeah,
we have a part
yeah,
two, right?
yeah, yeah.
But what we want to do, so, you know, make sure, as usual, like, subscribe.
Subscribe and share. We just want to say something to the people them still.
Mhm.
We get also a feedback that we leave you wanting for more. However, best practice in YouTube world and in the media world,
Mhm.
because I was trained as a journalist that 90 seconds for a news story is too much. People have a short attention. So we can't just be droning on and on. So sorry if we don't get in everything in a one episode,
Yeah.
but just remember there are time constraints and not everybody wants to watch a 20-minute video or a 15-minute video. So we have to be concise with it. Boom! And remember, click the notification button there. Like, subscribe, and share this. Because where we come with on the late night rap is not no jittybug thing.
Right.
It's straight facts. Straight
Come on.
facts on the late night rap.
And
Boom.
importantly, we'd love to hear your opinion. So just drop a comment in the comment section. All right? Boom. We're out.